Hello, welcome back. If you are new here, hello and welcome. My name is Charlie, and I need your help today. I'm a little stuck today. At the end of my last video, my 2024 wrap-up video, I included a section where I talked about my January TBR, so the books that I'm trying to read in January, or really that I'm deciding between to read in January, if that makes sense. Like I listed out 3 books that I'm considering to be my first book of this new year. I typically read like 1 full-length novel a month, maybe 2, and then some shorter books as well, like some comic books or like a novella, things like that. So more than likely, I will only be able to pick one of these up in January. So one of these will become the first book that I read in 2025. The problem is that, well, there's a couple problems. The first problem is that it's been very busy in this month of December, of course, because December is crazy always. There's just a lot of life happening. And then I also was reading a massive book in December, Wind and Truth, which I got like a little bit late, like a little bit after it came out. Plus, it's gigantic. Plus, there were the holidays. And it's just, I'm taking my time with it too a little bit, so I'm like 900 pages in, and I still have a decent chunk to go. So that's one thing. Like that's at least another week's worth of reading for me there. I also started Lost Ark Dreaming, which was recommended very highly by Nicole, who, if you haven't watched her channel, you should go check it out. She's great, and she champions this book. She loves this book, and so after hearing her talk about it a number of times and deciding that it sounds kind of like right up my alley, I decided to pick that up as well, which was very bold because I was also, already reading Wind and Truth at that point. But so I have both of those, and I am honestly loving both of those. I'm not very far into Lost Ark Dreaming, but it's really good so far. Like, I already understand why Nicole is praising it so much. So that's one thing. Like I want to finish both of these books, and I think that I will this month. Again, like I said, it's Wind and Truth. I probably have like another week of reading that. I'm reading it. I'm listening to the audio version, whatever. It'll take some more time, but I'm getting there. Lost Ark Dreaming should only be like a couple of sittings. It's a really short book, and again, it's a quick read. It's really, really good, and so I'm not worried about finishing these 2 and another book in this month. But time is not on my side, especially with the fact that tomorrow I am getting on a plane and flying out to visit some family for like 5-ish days, and I don't imagine that I'll be getting much reading done then. I think I will be bringing Lost Ark Dreaming with me, and the chances are high that I come home with that book having been completed. But I still at least have a lot of time left with Wind and Truth. But all that is fine, right? And if I don't finish another book next month, that doesn't matter to me. It'll spill over into February, and that's fine. The real problem is that I just can't decide which one to pick up next. Like I said, I'm really loving Lost Ark Dreaming and Wind and Truth, and so I want my next book to continue that momentum that I have right now. Like I'm very into reading right this second, and I want to keep that going, because sometimes after some good books, you kind of get into like this like book hangover, and it takes a while before you're willing to get into another one. So I want to pick up something that I'm really excited for, which brings us again to my main problem, which is that I'm really excited for all 3 of these books that I have in front of me, and also a 4th one that I ordered just a couple days ago that sounds really cool to me. So I want to talk about kind of all 4 of those books that I am stuck between and pose a question to you. Which do you think I should pick up? So long story short, I really just can't decide which book I want to read next. I'm equally excited for all 4 of these books, and any input that you have for me would be greatly appreciated. So this should be a pretty short video. I'm just going to pitch to you these 4 books, and then that's it. And I'll just wait for your comments to come in and help me to decide. So the very first one that I want to talk about is one that I've mentioned several times here on the channel, and I've mentioned the author even more, because the author is Andrew Watson. Andrew Watson is one of my favorite YouTubers here, or booktubers, I guess, and he is, friend of the channel. I frequent his Discord server, and I've read one of his works already, so I know that I like his writing style. I've read his Silence is Silver, which is kind of a prequel short story, I think, technically short story, maybe novella. I don't know really how those are defined, like what the page count is, but really tiny little book, really good. It's free if you sign up for his newsletter. But anyway, I really liked it, and I've talked about this before. I think in my short books recommendations video, I talked about this. I liked it a lot, so I'm excited to read more of his stuff. I really am. And I also own Harbinger of Justice, which is his full-length novel. I've been looking at this on my shelf for a very long time. This one I've owned for a very long time. Before I had this channel, for sure. Before I even joined his Discord server, I owned the book. And the second book is coming out in February, too. So it'd be cool to be caught up in time. And if I love it, then maybe I would jump right into that in February. So there's a lot of reasons why I should pick this up. The only reason that I'm not 100% sure that I will be able to get to it, or at least finish this book, if this is the one that I choose in the month of January, is that there's not yet an audiobook for this. I am currently, in my life and the way that my life is structured, I am most able to read audiobooks. I don't have a ton of time to sit and read, or I guess I have the time, but I use that time for other things, really. So I mostly am listening to audiobooks while I'm doing chores around the house and things like that. So I do still find time for, sitting down and reading physical books. So it's not like I can't do that. And it's not like I don't like reading physical books. None of that at all. I love doing that. So, that's not a huge deterrent. I'm just grasping at straws when I try to figure out why I haven't picked this up yet. I'll read the dust jacket for you. It says, "Upon the black sands and beneath the ever-watching eyes, a tale of shadow magic and ancient mysteries unfold in this new dark epic fantasy series. In the desert city of Yantar, Naya cares for her sick mother, but when Naya is arrested, her mother's death is all but certain, unless Naya joins a secret project that promises her freedom, if she survives. Rai, a mercenary, has a shadow dark enough for two. In his quest to discover the nature of the creature living in his shadow, Rai collides with old friends and new enemies, stumbling into an ancient mystery that could mean the end of the world as they know it. All the while, a darkness stirs and rebellion threatens, helmed by a man who promises justice will reign." It sounds really cool. I don't know, that has me very hooked, and it has, again, for quite some time. I also think that the setting is going to be really cool. Not only does it deal with a really cool magic system, I don't know if you heard that, but a sentient shadow, it sounds like. I want to know more about that. And the world that it's set in, just physically, is I think heavily inspired by ancient Egypt. So it's this desert world. So I don't know how where it lands between the Sahara Desert and Dune, but I feel it's got to be somewhere on that scale. And it just, that sounds cool. It sounds cool. I'm intrigued. So option number 1, Harbinger of Justice. Option 2 is to, kind of, instead of reading a book by Andrew Watson, it's to read a book with Andrew Watson. And by that, I mean that this second option is on here because it's the buddy read pick for January for Andrew Watson's Discord channel. That book is The Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio. This is book 1 of the Sun Eater saga. I don't know really a ton about this book, but it's kind of blowing up on the internet. I feel for the past year, a lot of people are talking about this. So I've gathered quite a bit about it just from hearing people talk about it. It was not his war. The galaxy remembers him as a hero, the man who burned every last alien Cielson from the sky. They remember him as a monster, the devil who destroyed a sun, casually annihilating 4 billion human lives, even the Emperor himself, against imperial orders. But Hadrian was not a hero. He was not a monster. He was not even a soldier. On the wrong planet at the right time for the best reasons, Hadrian Marlowe starts down a path that can only end in fire. He flees his father and a future as a torturer, only to be left stranded on a strange backwater world. Forced to fight as a gladiator and navigate the intrigues of a foreign planetary court, Hadrian must fight a war he did not start, for an empire he does not love, against an enemy he will never understand. This sounds like it's a sci-fi fantasy epic, which could be cool. I haven't really gotten into any of those in my life, so that could be cool. People love this. It maybe it's a nice transition from fantasy to sci-fi, which is something that I talk about here a lot. My struggles with sci-fi up to this point. I believe this series, the Sun Eater series, is also like told as, I don't know that it's epistolary, but it's told as a memoir. It's framed as Hadrian Marlowe's personal memoir. This again to me seems like it's a very character driven story, but again it sounds like it's in this really interesting setting. This setting not being like a world, but kind of the galaxy. I think there's a lot of, like non-human life that you deal with in this. Like I think a lot of the main characters even are not humans, which is always fun. And it has like interesting technologies too. Like, right on the cover, you can see this sort of like, it's not a lightsaber, but it kind of is a lightsaber. Like it's a sword that looks like it's made of like some sort of laser. So I'm interested in that. It sounds super cool. Again, it's blowing up on the internet. A lot of people are into that. And again, there's a buddy read for it, which is always a lot of fun. So this is high up there. But then the next one is Robin Hobb, who I've been talking about a lot. I haven't read Robin Hobb. I am so convinced, though, that I am going to love Robin Hobb. And so I finally picked up Assassin's Apprentice, which is book one in like the realm of the Elderlings, which is her series. It's book 1, 2 of the Farseer trilogy, because her series, I believe, is broken up into like smaller kind of series. So the first of those series is the Farseer trilogy. Young Fitz is the bastard son of the noble Prince Chivalry, raised in the shadow of the royal court by his father's gruff stableman. Fitz is treated as an outcast by all the royalty except the devious King Shrewd, who has him secretly tutored in the art of the assassin. For in Fitz's blood runs the magic skill, and the darker knowledge of a child raised with the stable hounds and rejected by his family. As barbarous raiders ravage the coasts, Fitz is growing to manhood. Soon he will face his first dangerous, soul-shattering mission, and though some regard him as a threat to the throne, he may just be the key to the survival of the kingdom. Just about everybody on the internet that has ever read Robin Hobb loves Robin Hobb. The only criticism that I've seen is that some of the books can be a little long-winded, or like that they're slow. I don't mind that most of the time. Like I'm reading Wind and Truth, which people have said similar things. Like the books are kind of bloated and you don't need all of it. And I don't generally mind that. I like that. I like learning a lot about the characters. And again, this seems like it's a deeply character-driven story. This, too, is, I think, the shortest of the books that I've mentioned so far also. So, that's definitely a plus for it. This one does have an audiobook, but I've heard not very good things about the audiobook, so that would also probably end up being like a physical read for me, which again is not really a big deal, but it is a little bit in the back of my mind like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure that we'll be able to finish it this month, which really is such a weird thing to care about. It doesn't matter that I finish a book by the end of the month, but I think especially since I started, this whole thing, this channel on YouTube, and I have my monthly wrap-ups, it is nice to have finished a book in a month, and then I can like actually give you my thoughts on it instead of like talking about how I'm going to start reading a book, and then at the end of the month, just keep talking about how I started that book and not be able to give you my full thoughts. Again, it doesn't matter. This is a choice. Whatever. I've also heard that Assassin's Apprentice is going to like traumatize me, which I'm here for. That sounds great. I like a book that can make me feel things. So it's so hard to choose. And then this last book is totally different, and I don't have it in front of me, so I can't like read you the dust jacket or anything like that. I won't be able to do the same thing that I've been doing for the others. And instead, I'm just going to tell you why this book came into my brain and why I'm thinking about it, because the why is maybe the coolest part of this book. Campbell of Campbell Reads Reads, who's another book-related content creator here on YouTube. He has actually several channels where he talks about different things, but I mainly follow his book-related content. And he, like me and Nicole, also frequent Andrew Watson's Discord server, so we interact on that server here and there. And he just recently mentioned historathon. He shared a video of somebody else talking about it. The video was great. I had never watched anything by this YouTuber before, and I'm blanking on their name right now, but I'll put it up on the screen and I will link to that video below. But essentially, my understanding of historathon, which I think I'm getting the name right, is that you break up the year into quarters, right? Like, so you have the 4 quarters of the year, and in each quarter you try to read a historical nonfiction book. And the gimmick to it is that there's a different time period, or like a range, like a range of years, where the subject matter has to be about this time period for each quarter. And I'm doing a terrible job explaining this, but in the first quarter you're supposed to read something set in anywhere from prehistory to the year 500. In the second quarter, it's 500 to 1500. In the third, it's 1500 to 1820, and then 1820 to present, like modern day nonfiction. Revenant Reads is the name of the YouTuber, which at this point I've probably already put it up on the screen, but whatever, that's who it is. Revenant Reads. They're the ones who put together the video talking about like the announcement of it. So the concept is really neat, and it also checks off a couple of my boxes. If you have seen my video where I talk about my 2025 reading goals, one of my goals is that I want to read more nonfiction books, and so this could be a really cool way to just like help me get into that. And I'm not like hard committing to doing it every quarter, but it got me really excited about picking up a new kind of category of book, like a historical nonfiction. And when I heard prehistory, I immediately thought of dinosaurs, and I love dinosaurs. They're super cool, but I don't really know all that much about dinosaurs. And then separately, kind of, people in the Discord were talking about a couple dinosaur books recently. Nicole is reading one, and Ross of Hardy's Books is also reading one. And I wasn't sure which of the two sounded more interesting to me, but I, for whatever reason, landed on The Rise and Fall of Dinosaurs, A New History of Their Lost World. This is, like I said, a book about dinosaurs, but it's written by a paleontologist, and they talk about kind of like, the classics, like they'll talk about the Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Velociraptor, but it sounds like they also talk about like lesser known dinosaurs, which could be cool. And the coolest thing that the book does is it'll talk about like kind of the newest discoveries and like the cutting edge science that we have and what it's telling us now about dinosaurs that we didn't know, even just like a few years back. That's what it sounds like this book accomplishes to me. And possibly the most exciting words that I read about this book in particular was that it is accessible and approachable and engaging. And I don't know that I necessarily assume that about a lot of like historical nonfiction, having not read any historical nonfiction really. Like, I read The Wager. I guess that counts, right? But this is a whole different thing, and it sounds like it's easy to get into. Like it's for people who know about this stuff, and they can get a lot out of it. But it's also written in a way that newcomers to like knowledge about dinosaurs can also get a lot out of it. So it sounds cool. Like there's not a big learning curve. And like I said, this one, I technically have the first quarter of the year to read it if I want to keep up with this historathon, which sounds like it could be cool. So it may seem like a natural fit to just like slide it down into like, next month or the month after. But the only reason that I'm like strongly considering it for this month is that it's really fun to talk to people about a book that's fresh in your mind when you read it. And it's also fresh in their mind because they just read it. And like I said, Ross of Hardy's Books is reading this book right now. So that could be fun to talk to him about it, like kind of as we're reading it. So that could be fun to read it and talk about it with him when it's still fresh in his mind as I'm going through it. Could be neat. And then Nicole also reading a dinosaur book. So could also be fun to talk to her about dinosaurs in general. Like, I don't know. It sounds cool. It could be fun. So it's on my brain. It might happen. We're going to see. And this is where I come to you and where I ask you to weigh in here and help me decide, because I can't figure it out. And if I don't figure it out by the time I finish Wind and Truth, there is every possibility that I'll be, struck with choice paralysis and ended up just picking up a different book. And because I can't decide and it would feel wrong to pick, so I'll just pick something else out, and then these will never get read. And I don't want that to happen. So let me know. Let me know what you think. If you've read any of these books, that's great. Tell me what you thought. If you loved it, that'll help me decide. If you didn't like it, that'll also help me decide against it. And also, if you haven't read these books, but you are interested in reading them and you think maybe you'll pick it up in January, let me know that too. Because again, it's fun to talk to people about books that you've both just read, even though I won't be doing like a formal buddy read of these books. Speaking of which, this brings me to the last thing that I want to talk about in today's video before I let you go, which is the fact that I am going to be starting my first buddy read. I have set up a Fable account and a club on Fable, which Fable is like a book tracking app, but they also, they help people run buddy reads. So far, it's been really straightforward and easy to use. I'm absolutely not affiliated them in any way, shape, or form, other than the fact that I set up an account, I set up a club, and I'm going to be starting a buddy read of The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu. This is a short story collection. So my plan is to just make this buddy read, slow paced, really easy to, follow along with. I just want to read one short story out of this collection every week. There are 15 short stories in total in this. So, we'll be doing this for 15 weeks. We'll be chatting about it kind of on the app, just laying out our thoughts as we read each short story. It'll be really easy to jump in and jump out. If you're not interested in the short story that we're reading for that week, just skip that one. You can read ahead. It doesn't matter. Really, really low stakes. You don't have to join if you're not interested. It's partially just a way for me to practice with the app and see what that's like, see if I like the process of running a buddy read. It seems incredibly easy. There's no overhead. I already set it up, so it's ready. It's just sitting there. I just have to read and then put my thoughts out into it. And then if anybody else is reading along with me, I know we have a couple people that are going to be joining me. It just sounds fun. It sounds fun. And again, incredibly low stakes. But if you are interested at all in The Paper Menagerie and other stories, which is the collection, join in. I'll also add a link to that down below. So far, I've only read the introduction. It was 2 pages, but I liked it. The writing style was really cool. I'm not really one to tab things, but on those 2 pages, I've already added 2 tabs. I liked the way that Ken talked about a couple things. So yeah, I'm really excited. This is another one that has been on my mental TBR for a really long time, and I picked it up recently, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. So yeah, I will be doing that, regardless of the other books that I decide to read. I think I can always make time for a short story. Some of these, like the first one, this first week, we're reading a short story that is only 10 pages long. So, some of them are really short. One of them I think is closer to 100 pages, but other than that, they mostly seem to range between 10 and 50 pages. But really, yeah, most of them are really tiny. And that is it. This video is maybe a little ridiculous because it's really just me asking you for help. But I've been stuck on which one I'm going to pick up for a few days now. And I figured, why not? Why not ask for your thoughts on it? So thank you so much for your input. And thank you in general for stopping by and watching and hanging out till the end. If you're still here, let me know your thoughts. I will see you next week. Bye.